Next up on the agenda, we have the Regional Port TIA, TIF. As I'm sure everyone's paying attention to the newspaper, and in your county and our county as well, of course, we have a 6-month moratorium right now on any TIFs in the unincorporated areas of Chelan County, and that's where we stand at this point. It does expire in January, so whether or not it's renewed or not, we'll have to wait and see what happens between now and then. But as far as an update on that, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Commissioner Overbay.
Yeah, as you know, the court or the port has filed a lawsuit against the county on our moratorium. We'll have our hearing in Douglas County tomorrow in Superior Court up in Waterville. And that'll be at 10 a.m. Just FYI.
Great. Okay.
And then basically, of course, this was a topic of conversation. We host commissioner meetings with constituents every fall and every spring, and this was one of the main topics at our meeting that folks. You guys might have also read in the paper that we did provide an offer to the port. We were going to look at our 09 dollars that the remittance back as the rural county tax dollars, and had offered $37.5 million to them over the course of 25 years, which would have offset what their projected costs, at least in their analysis, would be for wastewater and some transportation projects. And of course, it was rejected. And so, disappointed that it was rejected, but because that would have saved junior taxing districts from the potential losses that they'll see in the next 25 years, as well as our own county general fund and our own county road fund.
We would certainly like to see a greater spirit of cooperation with our junior taxing districts, especially the port, but that doesn't seem to be the trajectory we're on.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see what transpires tomorrow. So I don't know that we expect to have an answer tomorrow, but at least the hearing is tomorrow. So,
but we thought it was a very fair offer. If we could come up with a way to help them get revenue that doesn't impact our general fund, which is what the $0.09 represent, then they would sort of still have a stream that they can bond against, and then they have their own bonding capacity if they wanted to go ahead and do their cleanup or repurposing of the Alcoa site, which, Alcoa is $1 billion worldwide corporation, but, the port seems really interested in doing that work. But nevertheless, we thought that arrangement made sense, and it would have no impact on the junior taxing districts because no TIF would be created. But it was shot down less than a day, I think.
That's what struck me, I guess. If I'm being honest, I was surprised in the speed in which the answer came. Didn't lend much to consideration, it seemed to me. So.
And the answer itself, they basically told us, well, you can raise taxes to make up what you won't be collecting.
Well, as well as the junior taxing districts as well.
Yeah. Everybody
that'll help you out. But,
that's.
What I think others fail to realize is even on a levy lid lift, that levy lid lift is impacting the TIF properties. And so, of course, you want us to do a levy lid lift because not only would you think that it would backfill what your loss would be, but you would actually get more funding from a levy lid lift on all the properties that were within the TIF boundaries. Right. And so it basically is a windfall for, any TIF, a developer or initiator. And so that in that case, if there was a levy lid lift across the junior taxing districts, the port would actually receive more dollars up and above. And
once again, if you go back, to what a TIF in its truest sense is how it's supposed to be used, that's not how it's supposed to be used. So,
and I don't want to confuse anything. Our moratorium was not about the revenue losses. It was about the fact that we are in the process of our 2026 comprehensive planning update.
Precisely.
And also a Lambert to UGA conversion, especially in the area that the TIF is there. And so we don't even know what our zoning is going to be. We don't know what our transportation elements are going to be yet. We're still in the process of putting all that together. And so to look at this is basically something that all these projects are a land use issue, and
you won't know that until the end of next year.
and the thing is in most of the other TIFs that I've read that were given to the state treasurer's office, they're very specific about what the projects are that they want to have. This one here, they came to us, and I think the port is selling it that we're supporting this. We're not supporting this, but they came to us and said, hey, what transportation projects would you like to see in Malaga? Give us your list. And that's what we did. This is what we would like to see in Malaga, to include a third river crossing that we've talked about at the Transportation Council. But give us your list. And so we gave it a list. Doesn't mean that we support what you're doing. It just means that we gave you the list, because if the project's not on the list, if in fact a TIF is, then it basically cannot be added after the fact.
And where those projects that you provided them with fall on your tip may or may not be, or first of all, they may not even be on your tip, but they certainly may or may not be in the list of priorities that or prioritize the way in which they might prioritize.
It just seems to make sense to me that if you have a entity that does economic development for the future of the community, that they would engage with the legislative bodies of the community, that basically are.
Did they reach out to you directly for that list, or did they go to your departments?
They went to our departments, but they also, when we had a meeting here, asked us to go.
They actually did not come to the board for any of their lists, and we required them to stop communicating with the department first to come through the legislative body. We never heard another word.
Yeah, but again, just because something gets on the list doesn't mean they're going to do it. That's why
They don't have to do any of them.
Seems like a sham.
Actually.
And that's the thing that I think that when you stop and you think about the analysis, I don't really know what's been analyzed. You've got a 24 project list, but you've not landed on what is the priority projects, what is this, it baffles me, and how is it that we are supposed to react as a community, not just as commissioners, but as a community, where you have an entity that's basically saying this is what's best for this community, who hasn't even had engagement in that community.
Once again, if you look at TIFs that have been done well in Washington State, around the United States, TIFs have been done away with because they're so easily susceptible to fraud or misuse, and so they've been taken away. But in Washington State, it's still a tool. But if you look at where they've been done and done well, you'll see the common thread is that everybody gets together, the legislative body, the port, the communities, the chambers of commerce, and they're all discussing early and often about how this would work in terms of the infrastructure. Collaborative very much. And again, the linchpin is the but-for requirement. And, if that's the intent of the tool, and if you can't meet that but-for, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, the thing is to engage the public. This really should not be two public briefings. It should be public hearings. The public should have an opportunity to voice its opinion of what it wants its elected bodies to do, because we represent the people.
Correct.
And the fact of the matter is when you have elected bodies that don't agree, who serve the same people, leave it up to the people to decide which direction they want those elected bodies to go. Oh. That's why you have public hearings. You take everything into consideration. And it goes right back to that collaboration piece of, the ability for us, if we knew, we found out in May, but the work had been done probably 9 to 12 months prior. Had we been called the 9 to 12 months prior, said, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Can you come to the table and work with us over the next 12 months to figure this out? And what do you guys have going on? Oh, you got your cover. Okay, let us get through the comprehensive planning. Let's get through all this. And because I don't think a TIF is a bad thing as long as it's executed correctly.
Right.
And done with the community in mind and their input and their feedback, because we don't represent ourselves at this table. We represent the greater community.
Yes, indeed.
That's why we're here, to represent them and their voice.
Every successful TIF, if you do your research in Washington State, was a cooperative effort between the local jurisdictions, the legislative bodies, and the ports. They had common goals. I have yet to see a common goal in our case. We're, as you are, required to provide certain public services statutorily, and that the funding that is taken away from, frankly, the industrial area that we built is going to impact the ability to do that. Since we have to provide those services statutorily, we have to take from other departments to do that. It's very disappointing. It's very reminiscent of empire building. And I'm disappointed that they are not even open to the idea of having a discussion about cooperation. It is not on their agenda.
Well, the point that we brought up at the July 15th meeting, I don't think we got a chance to share this with you all, but or even the citizens as a whole, unless they were really attending that meeting, was the fact that we brought up that, look, if we have to cut these mandatory services, which is law enforcement, if we have to cut, from our road budget because it's now being shifted to a TIF, how are we going to attract business to our community?
Right.
If it's an unsafe community, if your public safety services, whether it be through your fire services, your law enforcement services, your courts, your jails, whatever it might be, are not available because they've now had to have budget reductions because we now have to pay into a TIF for economic services. If we have to pay, in our case, it'd be a little over average to $2 million a year out of about a $9 to $10 million budget, so 20% out of our county road fund. How are we going to plow the roads? How are we going to maintain the pavement, integrities? You need to have these roads to get your goods to market.
And that's all being exacerbated by the fact that we have challenges alone with all the other unfunded mandates that we have to deal with, contend with. We have exactly, and we have revenues that are tapering off in the form of the fuel tax, and so we have all of these challenges that, let alone, we're trying to address, and then we have this to factor in as well. And it's
then what exacerbates is if in fact a project is done, then it now gets added to your inventory of capital facilities that you now have to take care of, but you don't have the funding to take care of the new facilities because it's been shifted to build the new facilities. That there's a reason we do a 6-year transportation plan, and there's a reason we adopt it every year, a new 6-year plan, so that we can plan for these things and we can have put into that plan the ability to do the maintenance and operations of them as well, not just build them. So
one thing that I think has kind of fallen by the wayside or doesn't get as much attention, but the port did come out and say at their partners, in quotes, partners events that their main goal is basically to rework Alcoa's property, and just the thought of taking money from law enforcement, firefighting, and road preservation to clean up and repurpose a $1 billion worldwide corporate property, I just can't. It's mind-boggling. I don't think it's.
No, it's not been. They're paying for their own cleanup.
The
They've
public
cleaned the entire thing.
I just think that in all of this has sort of been lost. The public doesn't quite understand that's what they're going to do with.
Oh, I think they're beginning to understand.
Yeah.
I think folks are beginning to understand. Yeah. I really do. I think that the more that this is being discussed, I think folks are starting to go, wait a second, this is not the best use of my taxpayer dollars.
They're getting a peek behind the curtain now.
It would be nice. I guess in a perfect world for me, it'd be nice if the port would push pause. Let us get through all of our planning. Let us get through all of that. Come back to the table. Let's talk about what do we feel needs to be done in the Malacca area to enhance the economic viability well into the future. As part of the urban growth area, wastewater would be one of those things. We haven't even done a wastewater assessment yet or a study, and that's going to be something we'll have to do in the future. But at the end of the day, push the pause button. Let's all get back together. Let's put this to rest. Come back to the table. Have this conversation. Take the time that is necessary. Don't rush it because you've got a building that's coming online from Microsoft and you're going to lose the Microsoft.
That's exactly what it is.
And to say that, that building comes on, it's going to go over $200 million. Then carve it out of your boundary.
Yes.
It's very simple.
It's a mathematical equation.
You pick the parcels. Just carve that parcel out. You still have the other parcels we can have a conversation about.
They're falling all over themselves just to, rush this through to be able to gobble up and the Microsoft property values, and it's just that's where the greed comes in.
And once again,
it's very predatory. Their whole position and stance has been very predatory. There is no but-for issue for us. Water, sewer, roads, everything is already in place. They literally are taking from the PISA and applying it other areas that benefit their personal goals. And what has always astounded me with this particular situation is that a junior taxing district would know better how to take care of the citizens of a county than the elected legislative body. And we're 1,849 square miles of rural frontier county. And I can guarantee you we have our finger on the pulse much better than they do. And as near as I can tell, I haven't seen a desire for them to be interested in any other parts of the county other than the airport. As you all know, they tried to shut down the Mansfield Airport. I asked them point blank, what have you done for Douglas County for economic development outside of the airport? They didn't have an answer because there isn't one. And you know, I think we're all just expressing our frustrations right now. But again, we all work together cooperatively. That's how things get done. And then you have an empire that has no desire whatsoever to work in cooperation with the local. And we could accomplish so much if we work together. Yeah. And they just simply, there's a sense of arrogance.
In the future, what's going to happen? I mean, really, if like I personally, if they go through with this, can't sit in a tri-commission meeting with them, for example.
Well, and
I will not attend their partners breakfast because we're not partners.
Well, that's just it, Brad.
What happens?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at our partnership with regard to economic development. A partner, whether it's in business, whether it's in marriage, whether it's this sort of partnership, relies on a mutual trust. And as I shared, it is not demonstration of trust, this sort of behavior. And so how are we moving forward to sign off an attestation moving forward that says, yeah, we're going to partner and recognize the regional port as our ADO moving forward when they have not demonstrated that mutual trust that you expect in a partner. And I mean, that's fundamental. And so something's going to have to change to earn back that trust before I can support that sort of partnership.
That leads right into number 6 too, Mark. The ADO. Didn't you guys just sign a new contract with them for 1 year?
We signed a 1 year contract.
1 year. We abbreviated it.
We signed a 2 year.
We're looking for options, obviously.
You know, here, you know, this region has had a long-standing, you know, history of trust and cooperation, and now, like, that is lost, and that almost irreparably so. Like, it's not, I don't know how it's all going to shake out, and that's my biggest concern is, like, over the next 20 years or so, is it going to be this?
No, I agree.
You know, it's like we'll never be able to repair that in my lifetime with these people.
Not with the current structure that they have. I would agree.
I can't figure out is so it's like the commissioners there need to realize they're directing Jim Coons. Jim Coons isn't directing them.
I'm not sure they absorb that.
Well, and that's, again, that is, when it comes right down to it, you're absolutely right. That is the purpose, one of the purposes of that, whether it's Chelan or Douglas County Port Commissioners, that's one of their responsibilities. And, you know, it's frustrating. I know, and folks that I talk to, citizens that I speak with, feel like their voice is not being heard when it comes to this representation with the port, and that's an issue.
I long for the good old days. Bring back Lisa Parks, and you know, I mean, they were working on that Rock Island project. You know that. I mean, I'm sorry if I digress, but it's like I'm not even sure this concept of a regional port is worth anything to us anymore. I wish they dissolve it.
I'm sorry. I don't see how it's regional. I mean, when you look at it, when it benefits them, they act as a region. But when anything legal has to go down, they have to operate as separate ports, Chelan County Port and Douglas County Port. So I'm having a difficult time wrapping my head around how it's actually a regional port, other than they have lunch together.
It is a bizarre.
When
you really like start peeling the layers of the onion, it's a weird arrangement.
So I want to kind of jump back to the ADO conversation if I can just for a second. I will tell you that at least I can only speak for myself, especially with this experience that we're going through right now. But you know, you guys have signed for a year, we've signed for 2. I would be really interested to see where you guys are a year from now. And if you guys look at alternatives to that being the ADO, might be something I would be willing to jump in and entertain in 2 years.
Yeah, certainly.
Like Dan said, we are exploring our options. That's one of the reasons we went with a 1 year with accountability built into that. And yeah, I mean, it comes down to trust. I mean, you have to trust your partner, whether it's in business, whether it's in life, whatever it is. If you can't trust, it's really hard to have that entity or individual as a partner. And so, you know, do we want to have this discourse? Not at all. We didn't create it. That's, you know, we're left with, I shared at one of the public meetings last year when we had the opportunity to weigh in Douglas County. One of the points that I shared was the concern that there was not that early on conversation. There was not that dialogue between the junior taxing districts, the legislative body, the port, and others, and how that just didn't speak well to partnership. And what was really frustrating for me is it sounded like there were a few of those commissioners that I think it resonated with, but yet a few months later, they turn right around and go and do the same or similar, approach in Chelan County. So that told me that it did not resonate. It was not something that a point that they took to heart. Obviously, if they had, they would have course corrected. They didn't.
I think a great example of where their mindset is. They came before the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and staff, and when we expressed concern to Jim Kuntz, their executive director, his response was, "We do not have to have your permission to do this." In other words, it was just a blow off. We're going to do it, period. And that was really alarming. It was very disturbing to hear what, first of all, is your ADO telling you we're going to do this and we don't care if you like it.
And you know, Dan, it's not just us, and I don't want to speak for them, but a couple years before your TIF and stuff, they tried to run over Douglas County PUD on a rate issue, and right. Randy is familiar with it, but they organized this whole effort to predatory or antagonistic type thing, and I mean, they were quoted. One of the commissioners I remember was quoted, and it was either they said the port was predatory or antagonistic or something like that. But they kind of have this mentality of doing this to the local governments in their area, and I still scratching my head as to how this possibly benefits the people of Chelan County. You know, it's like I can understand why they think it might benefit the port, of course, but how does it benefit the people that they serve?
As within any group, as you all well know, the mindset and the philosophy is led by the leadership. Mm-hmm. That's where it comes from. And I can only say I disagree with the direction that they're going.